Welcome to Excel in Simple Terms, Designing a Game, Part 3. Today we're going to look at progress message functions. So that is your progress bar basically at the top that shows your user that something is happening, the game isn't hanging, it's busy generating a map or whatever it is busy with. We're also going to start using the helper functions that we did in the previous part and see how we can update our program. We've referred to worksheet and the init sheet quite a few times already in our code, and we're going to just change those to rather use our functions. You're going to see that it just makes it much easier to code because you're going to have less to enter. So let's jump right into it, get our Excel sheet open. Okay, so let's get get the Visual Basic Developer open. We're going to create firstly the function to start sending the information to the screen for the graphical user interface to tell your user where it is at. Now to do that, we're going to go to our forms, and we want to just make sure that this message box actually says message 1, and the second one needs to say message 2, so you can change that. Then I want to just make the background a little bit brighter so it's clear to the user where it is at the moment. So let's use a kind of darkish red for the background. Sort of maroon, and we're going to use for the foreground we're going to use white. It's going to display quite nicely, will be visible. So now that we've done that, I'm going to increase the size of this bar because I want to add a couple of other things. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add 2 frames into this bar. The one is the frame that we're going to be using for our little boxes, for our little the grass and the water, etc. So I'm going to just put it in here. It's going to display a little bit neater. I think I'm going to put this one next to it so we can get the bar a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to name this frame, I'm going to just move it down a little bit. I'm going to call this frame tiles. And I'm going to do another frame like that. And this frame I want to use for everything that we build in our program. And that we haven't attached to anything yet, or that at the moment we're still in development mode. So we're going to be building a whole load of functions, and eventually we're going to bring it all together. So for now, I want to create in here a button that we can use to just generate the map. Because as we go, we're going to constantly generate the map, especially in the next section. I'm going to try and do these videos a little bit shorter with less content, so I think I'm going to rather do the map in the next section. Just want to make it the same size. There we go, that's the same size. I'm going to stick this a little bit closer, and I'm going to call this one program components. And I'm going to name this button command generate map. Okay, so when we click this, we basically want it to generate the map. So you can just put generate map in there. It's going to call the function generate map and get your program going. Then we've now got the bars up here, but we have no function that's going to drive those bars. Now initially what I wanted to do is on the worksheet I wanted to create a message 1 and a message 2 here, and have it populated here and just link this with the control source. But I decided to instead rather take the information and push it directly into these boxes instead of putting it on the sheet. Because once you linked it as a control source, you're going to have to, if you decide to move it on your sheet to another line, which we probably will be doing later on as we add more variables, we will want to sort them, which is why we wrote the function to read the table. So I don't want to have to come and change the control source the whole time, or have to write an additional piece of code to change it automatically. So I'm going to rather just create a module that's going to send your message directly into these boxes. So to do that, I'm going to insert a new module here, and it's going to be a general module, and it's going to send the message. Now the code that I'm going to use to send the message is going to be this. So what this is going to do is it's going to receive a message that needs to display. The second portion of it is going to give it a message number so that it can decide whether to put it in box 1 or box 2. If the message number is less than 0 or greater than 2, because we don't have a message number that's less than 0, in fact we don't even have one that's 0, but I'm not going to set it equals, because in this section, if I pass no message, I want the message number to be 0 and to reset both those messages to nothing. And that is what this section is doing. So if it's missing, the message is missing, then I don't need to give it a message number. It's going to automatically assume that it's message number 0, and it's going to clear both those messages out. If the message number that we send is 1, then it's going to put it in text box 1, which we call message 1. And if it is 2, then it's going to put it in message 2. It's going to populate whatever you've got as your display message. And then it needs to repaint the toolbox. If you do not include this, what's going to happen is it's going to, for instance, run your map generation, and it's only going to update the wording in that text box at the end of it. So you're only going to see it once, that it's now reached cell 100 by 100 or 101 by 101, and the user is not going to, during the process, know where the program is at. So this is what the code that I want to use. I simply want to say message and the message name and which message number it must update. Now this is what we're going to be using instead of worksheet, init, the cell reference. We are just going to simply, so we're not going to send it to the init sheet, we are going to send it straight away to send message. We're just going to tell it which message that we want to send, which is generate water, and generating water, and we want it in message 1. You can see that makes a lot more, it's going to make it a lot easier to code than having to put this in. And we're going to do the same thing for each of these messages. This message here, which we created, is going to still reflect the row and the column so that you know where it is at. And we're going to send that to message 2. So this one we can copy to each of these sections. And this one we're going to just replace all of these with send message and 1. And then this one as well with send message and 1. So let's have a look at now. If we go to our map main, we've got the boxes. We're going to say generate map, and it has an issue with my function. So let's quickly have a look why. Because it is not called send message, we called it message. So just want to change that. And let's run it. And you can see now, as it's generating the map, it's telling you exactly what it's busy doing at the top. It's telling you it's generating water and which row and column it is at. So your user is now aware of exactly what is busy happening. They can see that something is happening while it's generating. You can see it slows down the speed a little bit, and we will do a couple of things to it later on in this course to speed the process up a bit. We don't want the message to slow it down so significantly. But for now, this is it's just going to help us, especially now during the coding section, so we can see exactly where it is at and where if it goes wrong, where exactly it is going wrong. So it takes a moment. In the meantime, I'm going to just quickly have a look at some of the code that we're going to change. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to change the map size to, as I said in the previous video, I want to change it to 101 by 101 instead of 100 by 100. And the reason for that is that we, on the 100 by 100, we don't really have a center of the map. Because at row 51 and column 51, that will be our new center of the map. Whereas with the previous method, it is basically going to be 50 and 51 a row and column number. So you've got 4 blocks, that's the center of the map. So I think it's going to work a little bit better for our map generation if we have an actual single block that is the center of our map. And you see it's finished generating, and in this, you remember in the second section we only ran up to 95, so you can see it didn't go up to the end because our instruction was only to run up to 95. We can now go, and what we could do is right at the end of this we can just send another message. That's just empty, and that's going to do set it as message 0, which will clear out those 2 fields. And that is the section of the code. Now let's quickly have a look at increasing our map size by an extra line. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Now remember, there's 2 components to it. We've obviously got the map to, or 3 components. There's the map to itself, the graphical user interface, and we've got the terrain. So to do the terrain, I'm just going to copy one of these lines up. We could just let the map run again once we've made the change, but I'm just going to put it in so at least we have something in there. We can see whether when we copy the formulas now on our main map, which we also need to basically just increase with an extra line, we can just see that there is actually something there. Okay, so our map is now 101 by 101, but now we need to go and modify the code as well. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to switch back to Visual Basic. So in our map terrain that we generated, let's see where this section of the code is. So we're going to need to increase the water to 101. This one is fine because we didn't go up to the edge of the map, and this one is fine, we didn't go up to the edge of the map. Play style, there's nothing there that needs to be changed. These have no reference to the number of 100 on the map, so they are fine. This is our read table and read grid. will execute whatever you pass to it. The dice is going to stay at as it is. The chance that doesn't have any reference to the map itself except what you pass to it, so nothing needs to change there. I don't think there's anything in our code here that needs to be changed. So I think it is now ready to run a map of 101 by 101. Now the next part of it, which we want to do, is we want to start linking our new functions into our code that we've already written. For instance, on the init sheet, we want to be able to, instead of doing the worksheet and init and the cell number, we want to just be able to give it the reference of the row and the column, and it will then look up the value. Okay, so we are now going to jump to our modules, and we're going to just change the previous bits where we looked up, where we used worksheet, init, and the cell name. We're going to change that to use our new method. So in this case, this is where we click on the cell. It collects the active row and the active column that of the cell that we clicked on, and we basically want it in this section to write the active row to the init sheet. So instead of doing this, we are now going to say write table. We're going to refer to init as our sheet. We're going to use the active rows as our reference, which we've already recorded here. The column is going to be our active column. And the value that we're going to record is going to be the active I apologize, there's a mistake here. This is, we want the init, then the row name. So the row name is row. My apologies. The active column is going to be the header of this column. So the active column's value is going to be values, and this needs to be in quotes because we are referring to the string that we're seeing on the init sheet. And value is going to be in quotes, and we're going to record in there the active row. We're going to do the same thing for the table. We're going to do for the column. We're going to go to write table. We're going to refer to init. We're going to refer to the column. We want the column that's got the word value as the header, and in there we're going to record the active column. So this is now going to, because we're using this method, it's going to allow us, we don't need the brackets, it's going to allow us to move these things around. So we would be able to insert a line there, and it's not going to affect how our code is running. So make this, set this like this, so we can jump between the screens without replacing it. So that is basically what we're going to do with every one of these references to worksheet cells and the cell numbers. We're going to replace it with the values that's on here, so it can write to this table. So that is this one. Then we've got in model terrain generate, we also have references there to worksheet and the map terrain. Now this is basically the values that we are placing on our map, on the map terrain that's going to represent our map. So it's also going to be right, but this is not to the table, it's to a grid. So we're going to use write grid. The database there is map terrain. The row that we are referring to is the row that we are collecting here, so it's R. and the column is the column that we are collecting here, which is C. And the value that we are collecting is water. That's what we want to place. So you can see it simplifies in my brackets. I don't need brackets here. So you can see it simplifies the way we write our code, and it now on the map grid, it's not about writing about where we're placing it, it's just about simplifying the code that we are going to use to refer to do the action. So we want the exact same thing for this one here, except it's going to be soil that we are referring to. And for the last one, it is grass that we are referring to. So we can do exactly the same thing. Okay, then on the toolbox, I'm going to go to code, and what I would like to do here is make use of the same method. So this is where we basically click the buttons, and it records on init_sheet what it should be placing. So we're going to do the same. We're going to write a table. It's on my init_sheet. My row reference, or my row name for this is going to be button clicked, just like it is appearing on the init_sheet. Then my value for the column is value as a string, and the value that we want to place in there is forest if you click on the forest button. So this is the code that we're going to be using for each of these. Whoops. I seem to love the brackets today, that's unnecessary. So we're going to do the same thing, copy this and take it to grass, take it to soil and to water. Okay, that is then all my buttons that's being pressed on the toolbox. Then there's only one spot where we deviate from that, from using our new methods, and that is here on the map main and the map terrain playstyle module. So you can see the playstyle is here. What we need to do is we've now collected, we've written the actual row and column, but while we're here, so obviously what we wrote on the init_sheet is for any other use outside of this module, but we have the active row and the active column while the moment we've clicked on it. Here we are declaring them. So what we want to do while we're here is we want to read the table, and what we want to read is the button clicked. Button clicked. Sorry, that's a capital. And the database where it is on init. Sorry, I just need to put a comma in there. And the moment you hit the comma, normally there's a little bit of a helper coming up, but this is going to be your active row and active column. And we want to set that equals to button clicked. Whoops, no quote in front, that's the reason. And then we want to place the tile. Now I'm going to change the place tile method as well slightly, because I want to use this one single method, the place tile function. I think we wrote it as a function. Let's see, no, we wrote it as a subroutine. I want to use that place tile to place any tile, not just water, any tile that we need placing. And I want to put the logic of, can it place a tile, like for instance, can it place a house once we've actually got a tile that's called a house, can we place it in the water? We cannot. So the logic for that will all be in here. If you click on a tile, can it place the item that you've selected on that specific tile? So to do that, we're going to go back to the map main, and we're going to change this to actually record for us. Firstly, we want the button that is being pressed. So I'm going to pass to it button clicked, because that's the button that we've activated already on the toolbox at that point, and we now want to write it onto that tile. And then we need the row and the column, and we already have those. We have active row and active column. And we don't, it's a subroutine, so we don't need the quotes. And we're going to jump to this section here, and now we're just going to modify it so it can accept those values. So it's going to wait for terrain type, and it's going to wait for a row and a column. So we don't need this anymore because it's already collecting it before it passes it to this. It's already collected the button, and we're passing it into the subroutine through the parameters here. So what we do need is we need to get the tile selected, because we want to identify whether we can place it, but we're not going to use this method. Remember, we're going to now use our new method. So we're going to read grid, and the grid that we are going to read is on map terrain, so capital, and we want we're getting past the row and the column, so that's going to be the tile selected. Now we are going to, with the tile selected, we want to I'm going to leave this for now. This is our first rule, and we're going to add on to those rules later on as we start developing what can be placed and what can't be placed on a cell. But for now, what we want to do is we just want to be able to, in this portion, we literally the purpose of this portion of this subroutine is to place the tile. So we want to be able to write to the grid. And it is on map terrain. And we have the row and the column. And the value is just the button clicked. Or in this case, because we're passing the button clicked as terrain type, we're going to put terrain type in there. And we don't need the brackets. Okay, so that simplifies it a little bit, because we can now pass any type of terrain to this, and it's going to just place the terrain type that we've sent to it in the specific row and column on the map terrain. So that is our the changes that I think that's all the changes that we've needed to make to the sheet to be able to use our new methods. If I look at it, I don't see any others that need worksheets. These I cannot change, because remember, these are actually creating those, or it's creating those functions that the new functions that we can use, and the new subroutines that we are referring to. So I'm not going to mess with the content of these. They are basically what we're trying to get to. Okay, so that is it for this section. So I think we can start jumping into the map. So we're going to be focusing on the place tile rules and the generation of the map next, and I'm going to do that in the next section. I'm trying to keep the videos a little bit smaller, so to give you a little bit of a break between the modules as well, and to get let the information settle in a bit. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next section.